अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम, कैसे हैं बेटा?
ठीक हूँ अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह।
Just a second. Shazib, my question to you is which nutrient, and I am asking this from N, P, and K, out of these nutrients, which nutrient is used for healthy roots? Just say the name, nothing else.
Phosphorus.
Phosphorus, good. Zainab, my question to you is, okay, कौन सी ऐसी crop है, just name one, जो रूट्स पे बेस करती है और जिस तरह शाहजेब ने बताया आप उसमें phosphorus based fertilizer इस्तेमाल करेंगे. Only name one plant, one vegetable, whatever that crop is, उस crop का नाम बताएं. Zainab.
Carrot.
Carrots, very good. Zoha. Let's suppose आपकी crop जो है वो root based नहीं है और leaves based है, तो फिर कौन सा nutrient आप इसके लिए pick करेंगे out of N, P and K?
Nitrogen.
Very good. ठीक है. So Ayan, nitrogen based fertilizers के लिए example दें किसी crop की, a leafy crop. Ayan, can you hear me? I don't know. I think Ayan के इन पे कोई issue ना हो, पर नहीं पता भी चल रहा है नहीं. Well, coming to the next person, Tanisha. Tanisha, to you, my question is, we are going to make the fertilizer ammonium sulfate, and for that we already have one component, that is ammonia. What would be the other reactant we need to make ammonium sulfate? Tanisha.
Sir, sulfuric acid.
Sulfuric acid. Very good, Tanisha. Zaim. Zaim, my question to you is, if we don't use sulfuric acid and instead we use nitric acid, which fertilizer we would end up with?
Ammonium nitrate.
Ammonium nitrate. Very good. Rafe. Rafe, my question to you is, we're going to use the same reactant, ammonia, but this time we're going to react ammonia with another reactant, which gives us urea. What would that reactant be? Rafe. राफे मेरी आवाज आ रही है बेटा? I think यहाँ पर भी हमारे पास internet issues है. So from Rafe, let's move on to Vase. Vase, मेरा ख्याल है वासे सब क्लास का सबसे difficult question मुझे आपसे पूछना चाहिए. So coming to that question, I'm going to give you 3 fertilizers. You're going to tell me which has the highest percentage of nitrogen and what is that percentage. Okay, your options are urea, ammonium nitrate, and ammonium sulfate. Which one has the highest percentage of nitrogen? First part of the question. Second part of the question, what is that percentage exactly?
So urea.
Yes, very good.
46.6%.
Very good. इसका मतलब आप लोग पढ़ रहे हैं. That's good. Okay, so let's start with our class. राफे का माइक प्रॉब्लम है और अयान ने रिटन कैबेज आंसर दे दिया. वेरी गुड. राफे का माइक प्रॉब्लम है तो आंसर तो लिख के बताए ना. भाग क्यों रहे आंसर से हैं? अयान ने भी तो आंसर लिखा है चैट में. Okay, so Rafe, I'm expecting your answer in chat. Okay, let me share the screen. Just a minute. So we're already done with this portion. Let's come to the portion sulfur and sulfuric acid. It's the next industry that we are going to do. This chapter consists of industries. We're done with a few, and less number of industries are actually left. So we started off with iron industry and steel industry with the blast furnace process. then we came to aluminium industry, and then we had this ammonia and fertilizer industry. Okay. Now we are coming to sulfur and sulfuric acid. This is mostly inorganic industrial chemistry, which means we are not talking about metals. We will be mostly talking about non-metals. Sulfur is a non-metal. Sulfuric acid, however, is commonly known as king of chemicals. Why the name king of chemicals? Most of the chemicals around us, most of the inorganic or organic chemicals around us are made with the help of sulfuric acid. Okay. So this is a big claim to make, and this definitely requires more explanation, and we're going to come to that explanation. Good answer, Rafi, you're correct. And we're going to come to that explanation in the end of this topic. Let's move on to the second paragraph of the topic, and I'm going to use an annotation of red spotlight to explain this. Okay. So sulfur is produced as a byproduct of petrochemical industry, as it is removed from fuels such as gasoline before they are sold for use. Our petrochemical industry produces a lot of fuels. Gasoline or petrol is one of them. Kerosene is one of them. Diesel is one of them. All of these produce sulfur as a byproduct. So what they do is that they separate the sulfur out of the fuel before they sell the fuel to us. आप बाहर जाते हैं refueling station पर, आप अपनी कार को, अपने बाइक को refuel करते हैं. Let me tell you, उस fuel को आपको sell करने से पहले उस fuel से जितना sulfur होता है वो properly remove किया जाता है. It is also obtained from the craters of volcanoes. Volcanic eruption contains a lot of sulfur. That's why most of the volcanic eruption is acidic. Okay? It's also mined by pumping steam into sulfur beds underground. Sulfur is also present in the form of sulfur beds underground, okay, in between the rocks. And what do? We pump steam into those rocks underground, and we get sulfur out of it. The sulfur is then forced to the surface by compressed air. We put compressed air from one side, and it pushes the sulfur all the way to the top from the other side. This method of mining is known as Thrush Process. We're going to study Thrush Process on the next page. Okay, let's come to Thrush Process first. Just a second. I'm going to explain the diagram of Thrush Process first before I move on to the next paragraph. Okay. Now you can see the diagram in front of you. You would see that we have multiple cylinders or multiple holes dug into the ground in which we have different pipes of different sizes. The outermost pipe is of blue color, and you would see hot water going in from one side all the way, melting the sulfur and going into going as a part of water bed, sulfur bed. Okay. The inside pipe, the intermediate pipe, is actually of yellow color, and it takes out molten sulfur and air. So the question arises, where does the air come in from? The innermost pipe, or the pink pipe, is from the pipe from which we send compressed air. Remember, we don't just simply push the air into it, we send compressed air into it. Okay? So the air goes inside. When the air comes back out with the pressure, it also takes sulfur molecule with it, and molten sulfur and air comes out from the intermediate pipe. Hence, this entire hole can be bifurcated into three parts and three different pipes: the blue one, the yellow one, and the pink one. Okay, so you would see and understand that's the process how sulfur beds, the sulfur inside the sulfur beds, which is present in solid form, is first of all melted with the help of steam, and then is taken out or brought to the upper surface of the ground with the help of compressed air, right? So I hope this diagram is understandable for everyone. Is it? If you have a question, please ask now. If you have a question related to this diagram, please ask now. All right. This means the diagram is easy and you don't have any questions. So moving on to the previous paragraph on the previous page. Just a minute. So last paragraph on this page, page number 238. Sulfur is then burnt in air to form sulfur dioxide. Of course, it is going to react with oxygen in the air to form sulfur dioxide. We know the formula for sulfur is S. For air, the oxygen reacts, and the formula for oxygen is O2, and it forms sulfur dioxide, the formula for which is SO2. See? So these formulas and these equations are not written over here because they're all present on page number 240. We'll study them later. So what we are going to go through is that what we are going to do is to go through the entire process without going through in equations, and then once again I'll go through the equations and repeat the process as well. That way the process would be repeated twice. Okay? So the main reaction in the contact process is the one in which sulfur dioxide, now this sulfur dioxide combines with oxygen to form sulfur trioxide. This reaction is reversible, and we have studied this reaction back in chapter number 7 by the name of contact process. In that process, we reacted sulfur dioxide with oxygen to form sulfur trioxide. The reaction was reversible, hence an equilibrium position was carefully considered. There was a law, a rule, which we used to call Le Chatelier's principle, and we used that rule to explain how the equilibrium of contact process can be converted into a profitable process by producing more and more products from the reactants as much as possible. So what we do is that we go with a certain set of conditions to make sure that we convert maximum amount of reactants into products. Those conditions were a temperature of 450 degrees centigrade, 1 to 2 atm or atmospheric pressure. The gases are then passed over a catalyst. The catalyst was vanadium 5 oxide. The gases that didn't reacted were recycled until we obtained a yield of 98% eventually, just like we did back in Haber's process for the production of ammonia. So the flowchart will be given on the next page. We'll discuss that later, right? The sulfur trioxide produced is that dissolved in 98% sulfuric acid and not water in order to prevent environmental problems of an acid mist, which is formed if sulfur trioxide is reacted directly with water. Why are these lines written over here? Now, let me clarify. सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड या कॉन्टैक्ट प्रोसेस जो सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड को बनाने के लिए यूज होता है, ये पास्ट में एक इंटायरली डिफरेंट तरीके से वर्क करता था इस स्टेप पर, और उसके बाद जब हमने इस स्टेप के बहुत ज्यादा एनवायरमेंटल प्रॉब्लम्स देखे तो हमने इस स्टेप को चेंज कर दिया. स्टेप क्या है? सल्फर ट्राइऑक्साइड से सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड प्रोड्यूस करना. पास्ट में क्या होता था? We used to react sulfur trioxide with water to produce sulfuric acid. What were the environmental problems we faced? At that time, the biggest environmental problem was acidic mist. Do you know what mist is? Can anyone answer the question what mist is? Okay, I'm going to put up an appropriate Urdu word for that. हम इसे उर्दू में शबनम के नाम से जानते हैं. फिल्म स्टार की बात नहीं हो रही, किसी एक्ट्रेस की बात नहीं हो रही, साइंस की बात हो रही है. So, क्या कोई फेमिलियर है लफ्ज शबनम से? उर्दू के किसी चैप्टर में किसी टॉपिक में पढ़ा हो आपने?
Yes sir.
हाँ, और वो क्या होता है? Would you like to explain to the rest of the class?
रात को जो घास के ऊपर पानी होता है.
जी जी बिल्कुल. वेरी गुड. दिन के टाइम पानी आहिस्ता आहिस्ता वेपोरेट होता है और ऊपर की तरफ राइज करता है. अभी पानी थोड़ा सा भी ऊपर राइज नहीं किया होता कि हमारे पास दिन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता खत्म हो जाता है और रात आनी शुरू हो जाती है, और वो जो रात होती है उसमें वो पानी दोबारा कंडेंस होता है, छोटे छोटे कतरों में, ड्रॉपलेट्स में, ड्रॉप्स में कन्वर्ट होता है. वो ड्रॉप्स दोबारा गिरते हैं. किसी भी नॉर्मल सरफेस के ऊपर तो एब्जॉर्प्शन हो जाती है, घास के ऊपर उसकी एब्जॉर्प्शन नहीं होती, क्योंकि अगर वो सॉइल पे गिरे तो एब्जॉर्प्शन हो जाए, घास के ऊपर एब्जॉर्प्शन नहीं होती. और वो कतरे वहीं पड़े, हमें छोटे छोटे पानी के कतरे बड़े खूबसूरत लगते हैं सुबह सुबह के वक्त देखने में. तो हम जब पूरी रात गुजार के सुबह को उठ के बाहर आते हैं वॉक के लिए, तो लोगों ने बड़े कॉमनली ये चीज देखी, जिन्हें घास के ऊपर छोटे छोटे कतरे नजर आते थे, जिसे हमने उर्दू में शबनम कहा और इंग्लिश में हम इसे मिस्ट के नाम से जानते हैं. और हाँ, जब वो कंडेंस भी नहीं हो पाता और एनवायरनमेंट के अंदर ही सैचुरेट कर जाता है, कंडेंस भी होता है, पानी भी बनता है, उसके बावजूद उसकी इतनी क्वांटिटी होती है कि वो एनवायरनमेंट में गैसियस फॉर्म में भी होता है, नीचे वाटर फॉर्म में भी फॉल कर रहा होता है, तो हम उसे फॉग के नाम से जानते हैं, धुंध। ठीक है, यानी जब वो इतनी ज्यादा अमाउंट में हो कि वो एयर में गैसियस फॉर्म में भी सैचुरेट हो और नीचे वाटर बन के भी फॉल कर रहा हो, तो वो फॉग है। और अगर वो एयर में ना रहे, सिर्फ ड्रॉपलेट्स ऑफ वाटर बन के फॉल कर जाए, तो वो मिस्ट है। एसिडिक मिस्ट क्या है? सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड का ये रिएक्शन, sulfur dioxide reacting with water, was a highly exothermic reaction. The sulfuric acid produced was quickly evaporated and was converted into vapor form, tiny droplets. Those droplets still had that acidic effect. We called it mist, but acidic mist. That acidic mist was a big problem. Why? If it was contained inside any material, it was so corrosive, sulfuric acid being one of the best acids of the world, it was so corrosive that it slowly ate any material that covered around it. हमने इस इंडस्ट्री में सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड को उस एसिडिक मिस्ट की फॉर्म में हर लिहाज से कंटेन करने की कोशिश की। हमने मोटी मोटी थिक स्टील की शीट्स लगाई, हमने लेड शीट्स लगाई, हमने जो जो कुछ हम वहां पर लगा सकते थे उसे रीइंफोर्स किया, सीमेंट से, कंक्रीट से, मैग्नीशियम की चीजों से। लेकिन स्लोली वो एसिड इतना करोसिव होता था कि उस मटेरियल को कुछ स्मॉल ड्यूरेशन ऑफ टाइम पे अटैक ना भी करे, तो चूंकि एक इंडस्ट्री है और वो मुसलसल काम कर रही है, मुसलसल मिस्ट प्रोड्यूस कर रही है, तो ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, ओवर अ फ्यू वीक्स, कोई भी चीज नहीं ठहरती थी। It brought holes to any of the thickest sheets that we used. It was a problem for approximately 1 to 2 centuries. And when that acid mist was released in the environment, it killed everything. It corroded every living organism it came in contact with. हमारे पास छोटे छोटे एक्सीडेंट्स हैं जो आपको गूगल करने से मिल जाएंगे, जिसमें हमारे पास थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम किसी इंडस्ट्री के जो है ना ऐसे सेक्शन जहाँ पे सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड का ये रिएक्शन हो रहा है वहां पे मिला, एसिडिक मिस्ट रिलीज हुआ, उसने आसपास एनवायरनमेंट्स, माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स, मैक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स, ह्यूमंस, एनिमल्स, बर्ड्स, marine environment, plants, it killed everything it came in contact with. This because sulfuric acid is highly corrosive, and no matter what kind of living thing it comes in contact with, it simply eats it away. So acidic mist was not just a problem for the containers, acidic mist was a problem for environment as well. Okay? And the reaction was so highly exothermic, it was becoming uncontrollable. Till they came up with a solution. Instead of reacting sulfur dioxide with water, as written in the first line, they reacted sulfur dioxide with sulfuric acid in order to form sulfuric acid. Now, this thing seems a little bit confusing to the students. Sulfuric acid produce करने के लिए sulfur dioxide का reaction sulfuric acid से कर देते हैं. Now, this is somewhat unimaginable. This is somewhat funny in terms of students कि हमें केक बनाने के लिए केक इस्तेमाल कर देना, केक बनाने के प्रोसेस में ऐसा कैसे होता है? मतलब अगर आपने बिरयानी पकानी हो तो पहले से बिरयानी बर्तन में फेंक दें और फिर 4 चीजें और मिलाएंगे तो बिरयानी तो खराब हो जाएगी। मतलब किसी भी ईटेबल के बारे में हम इस तरह से बात करें तो probably the idea would go wrong. ठीक है, यानी यूजुअली हमारे आसपास जितनी एग्जांपल्स हैं उसमें ऐसा नहीं होता, बट इन केमिस्ट्री this is very much possible. We'll do it with a small twist. Okay, the reaction with sulfur dioxide and water is going to produce pyrosulfuric acid. We are going to call that oleum. This is written in the next reaction in the next line. Okay, that the reaction between sulfur dioxide and water is extremely exothermic. The solution formed means that is that that can be transported and in concentrated form, 98.5% yield acid. It is known as oleum or pyrosulfuric acid, and then diluted on site. This is the trick behind it. हम उसे ऐसा एसिड प्रोड्यूस करते हैं जो इतना करोसिव होता ही नहीं है और जो इजीली ट्रांसपोर्ट हो जाता है। फिर जब वो एसिड किसी और जगह पे पहुंचता है तो वो वहां पे डाइल्यूट करके फिर सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड में कन्वर्ट किया जाता है। We're going to see actual chemical equations for that. फिर आपको ये बात ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह से समझ आएगी। But before we do that, there are a couple of uses we need to go on with. Sulfuric acid is very important for the fertilizer industry because it is needed to make aluminum sulfate. We've already discussed that. Sulfuric acid is also used to make phosphoric acid, and phosphoric acid is then used to make ammonium phosphate. We already know that. There are Other sulfur compounds that are important, sulfur dioxide is one of them. We studied sulfur dioxide in the start of this contact process. Sulfur dioxide is an important compound in its own right. It is used for the manufacture of paper. First use, please mark that. The uses of sulfur dioxide are now a very common question in past papers. You would see it as a common question after 2016 papers. बहुत repeatedly आ रहा है 2016 के बाद. Chances are ये question आपके paper में भी आ सकता है. First use of sulfur dioxide. It's the first use. It is used in manufacture of paper. The wood pulp from other materials is usually pale yellow in color. Sulfur dioxide is used to bleach it to white color. You know what bleaching agent is? A bleaching agent is which decolorizes anything, and sulfur dioxide is used to decolorize the wood pulp to give you a white paper, the paper you usually use. This is the first use, that sulfur dioxide is used as a bleaching agent in paper manufacturing. First use. Second use, sulfur dioxide is used in, this is the first use continued. Sulfur dioxide is used in preference to chlorine as it is less harmful to the environment. Chlorine was previously a very good bleaching agent, but it is more harmful to the environment. Number two, second use. Sulfur dioxide is also used in food industry. It is used to kill bacteria in foods and to prevent them from going bad. The foods where it is used are dried apricots and wine. वाइन की प्रिजर्वेशन के लिए सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड यूज होता है. ये वाइन के साथ रिएक्ट नहीं करता, उसे प्रिजर्व कर देता है अच्छी तरह से, और एप्रिकॉट्स को ड्राई करने के लिए इस्तेमाल होता है. शाज़ेब, you are a nutrition conscious person, so I'm going to ask this question from you, not to target you, but as you're nutrition conscious, so I'm hoping you'd know the answer. Have you ever eaten dried apricot?
Yes, sir.
And what do we call it in Urdu? Do you know that?
Nahi.
Okay. Does anyone in the class has ever eaten a dried apricot? No, seriously. Means dried apricots are actually used as a part of winter. हम इसे गरम मेवे के नाम से जानते हैं उर्दू में, और उसमें काफी सारे नट्स और ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें जो स्पेशली जो ना विंटर फूड के तौर पे आता है. Means winter food includes almonds and include walnuts and nuts of other type, groundnut, and there are many other nuts जो हम use करते हैं. Apart from that, we use dried fruits such as dried grapes, such as dried apricots. Are you familiar with dried grapes? Anyone in the class familiar with dried grapes?
Yes, sir.
खाए हो? उसे हम उर्दू में क्या
किशमिश
बोलते हैं?
कहते हैं ना.
किशमिश कहते हैं. वेरी गुड. और ड्राइड एप्रिकॉट को एक्चुअली खुशखुबानी कहते हैं. ठीक है, उसके और नाम भी हैं लेकिन वो बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएंगे, लेकिन खुशखुबानी. वेरी गुड. ये जो किशमिश और खुशखुबानी होती है कॉमनली हम खानों में इस्तेमाल करते हैं, और कम ऑन ये ड्राइड एप्रिकॉट हमारे यहाँ बड़ी कॉमन है मीठे और नमकीन चावलों में. इवन हमारे पास कुछ पाकिस्तान के हिस्से ऐसे भी हैं जहाँ के जो ना कहते हैं बिरयानी में या पुलाव में, जैसे काबुली पुलाव होता है हमारे नॉर्दर्न एरियाज का, या हमारे बलोची भाई जो हैं वो जो काबुली पुलाव बनाते हैं वो चावलों के अंदर ड्राइड एप्रिकॉट्स भी डालते हैं. Apart from cashew nuts and almonds and all other kinds of nuts, they also put dried apricots, and it tastes really well. It has a very good nutrition value as well, but it's a winter food. It's not a summer food, all right? So moving on, when concentrated, sulfuric acid is extremely dangerous. It is a very powerful dehydrating agent, oxidizing agent, and it can cause severe burns. We are going to go through these facts too. All of these facts are to be discussed in diagram form. So let's move on to the next page, page number 240, where we will be able to go through the diagrams. This is the contact process industry, as you can see it for yourself. This is the flow chart. Let's go through the flow chart. Air and sulfur are combined together. The oxygen in the air reacts with sulfur to form sulfur dioxide gas. Then there is further air pushed in. The gases are mixed, cleaned up by electrostatic precipitation. It's a kind of precipitation we use to clean up gases and take out dust or other things out of gases. All right. You do not need to go with further elaboration of electrostatic precipitation, as that's not a part of your course. When the mixed gases are reacted, This is the proper reaction of contact process, which is reversible, which needs a lot of requirements. As we have stated earlier, it requires 450 centigrade temperature, 1 to 2 atmospheric pressure, vanadium 5 oxide catalyst, and that eventually gives a yield of 98% sulfur dioxide. The unreacted gases are recycled. The yield is then processed by dissolving it in 98% sulfuric acid. So sulfur dioxide and sulfuric acid gives us oleum. This H2S2O7 is oleum. Please write ahead of this formula. I mean, what you're going to do is that you're going to make a column over here, and you're going to write it like this. This is oleum. The old process, this equation given below is actually the old process. H2SO3 plus H2O gives us H2SO4, which is obsolete and not used anymore. This oleum is then reacted with water, and the equation is not given over here. So let's write the equation quickly before the class is over. This is for the last box over here. H2S2O7 when is added with H2O, water, gives us 2H2SO4. It gives us 2 molecules of H2SO4. So what's beneficial over here is that we transport a volume of oleum, and the other person gets twice the amount of H2SO4. For example, आप सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड प्रोड्यूस करें तो आप क्या करेंगे कि आप सिर्फ ओलियम तक जाएंगे, आप सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड नहीं प्रोड्यूस करेंगे. जब कोई आपसे सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड मांगेगा, आप सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड भी उसे ट्रांसपोर्ट नहीं करेंगे, क्योंकि सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड अपने मटेरियल को खा जाता है, उसको ट्रांसपोर्टेशन डिफिकल्ट होती है. आप क्या करेंगे, आप उसे ओलियम भेजेंगे. इफ इट रिक्वायर्स 20 tons of sulfuric acid, you're only going to send 10 tons of oleum. He'll add in the same amount of water, 10 tons oleum में 10 tons water शामिल होगा और उसके पास 20 tons of sulfuric acid आ जाएंगे. That's what something is good about it. The rest uses of this process, sulfuric acid, there is a whole big diagram given on so many things that are made out of sulfuric acid. However, the properties of concentrated sulfuric acid is something we are going to do tomorrow. We have hardly 10 seconds left, so if you have any questions, you may ask them on WhatsApp or you may ask them tomorrow. That's enough for today. Take care, students. Allah Hafiz.